California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. Considering the environmental impact of a project. The California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, in California requires developers of subdivision tracts to consider the environment prior to being issued building permits. The Act requires an environmental impact report to study the specific impact on the environment of the project. Just like with a golf score, the lower the score, the better. So with an environmental impact report, a negative report is good in that it means the project will not adversely impact the environment. CEQA made it law to perform an environmental impact report for subdivision tracts in California. Proration. Fairly distributing expenses within a real property transfer. Proration is the process of breaking a fee into its component parts so only what is used has to be paid for. For example, prorated rents is rent only for the days of the month used. The California Department of Real Estate proposes that 30 days is fine to use for all months, whether February at 28 days or January at 31 days. However, it is also fine to use the actual number of days in the month. If the monthly rent is $2,385 and the resident is only using 5 days in the month of January, then $2,385 divided by 31 days is $76.94 per day times 5 days, which is $384.68 of prorated rent. Proration can be used on any expenses or revenue, prorated taxes, prorated insurance, prorated interest, etc. Passthrough securities. Mortgages sold to investors include principal and interest. A mortgage-backed security, MBS, is an investment that is somehow related to loans made to purchase or hold real property. In general, this is a more secure form of investment because real estate loans are secured by the property. That is, if the borrower defaults, the lender takes the home, sells it, and conceivably recovers most of, if not all, the value of the original loan. Mortgage-backed securities are often pass-through securities because the underlying principal and interest payments are part of the investment. The effect is that a loan can be originated by a lender and sold to an investor, with the investor now receiving the principal and interest just as if the investor had originated the loan. This principle is what makes a secondary market for mortgages (or trust deeds) viable, which is what makes so much money available in the U.S. for real estate transactions, which is a huge engine of the American economy. Related words: mortgage-backed securities, MBS. Cloud on title. Condition affecting clear title to real property. A cloud on title is a condition or situation that restricts the title of a real property. A current lien, mortgage, or attachment is an encumbrance, but not necessarily a cloud on a title. A mortgage that was paid off but still remains on the title is a cloud on title. An error on the title, like a misspelling of an owner's name or a former spouse's name still on a title, is a cloud on title. Often, a quitclaim deed is used to clear up these type of clouds on title. A cloud on title is a condition affecting clear title to real property. Related words: quitclaim deed, encumbrance. Actual notice. Having direct knowledge of who owns a property. Actual notice is knowing a fact, having direct knowledge, having access to the source documents or having empirical evidence about the ownership interest of a real property. If you were there when the will was read and you saw in writing that your brother inherited a home, then that is actual notice. If you are in possession of the deed, then you know by actual notice who owns the property. Actual notice is knowing a fact or having direct knowledge of who owns a property. Agreement of sale. Sales contract. Seller leaves, retains title until paid in full. There are many names for this type of transfer. Land contract, land sales contract, conditional sales contract, agreement of sales, contract of sales, contract for deed, installment sales contract. An agreement of sale is when the current owner sells his real property to another on an installment basis. When the buyer is done making installments, the title is turned over to the new owner. Many call this, quote, creative financing, end quote. Often, the original owner has a bank loan or mortgage on the property. If the agreement is not recorded, parentheses, not recommended, end parentheses, then the transaction may not trigger the original owner's mortgage due on sale clause. It's creative because the buyer may not have to go through the traditional loan approval process. Related words, creative financing. Depreciation for appraisal purposes. Loss of value of real property to find market value. Depreciation is a loss of value in real property for reasons like age, economic obsolescence, functional obsolescence, or other reasons. Appreciation is the opposite of depreciation, which can result from inflation or improvements. Depreciation for appraisal purposes is complicated because we are looking for the market value of a property, including accurate depreciation. Depreciation for tax purposes might be more about a simple way to generate a deduction. When it comes to depreciation due to age, there is actual age, which is the age of the structure, and effective age, which is the actual age accelerated by more rapid deterioration, or reversed by improvements which back up the effective actual age, which back up the effect of actual age. There is curable depreciation, which can be fixed, and incurable, which cannot be fixed. Depreciation for tax purposes usually uses a straight line method using the cost basis or adjusted cost basis and divides it by the allowable number of years, say 25, and deducts that amount each year until 0 is reached. Depreciation for appraisal purposes is trying to find an accurate loss of value so that it can be accounted for with the appraiser's opinion of fair market value. Antonyms: appreciation. Related words: depreciation for tax purposes. Water rights. Right to use water needed for one's own personal use. Included in the definition of real property or land is airspace, surface rights, mineral rights, and water rights. Water rights include water on the surface like ponding water, ponds, lakes, rivers, and water under the ground like percolating water, which is water that flows through, parentheses under and parentheses, the ground. Basically, an owner has the right to use whatever water is reasonably needed for one's own personal use. Water cannot be, quote, owned, end quote, channeled, or dammed for the benefit of the owner at the harm of the owners, of other owners. Blockbusting. Telling owners values are dropping to get them to sell. Blockbusting uses fear to get owners to sell, fast and cheap. Another term for blockbusting is panic selling. Telling owners something that makes them afraid so they agree to sell and fast and cheap is blockbusting and illegal. This includes telling owners that minorities are moving into the area and property values will drop, so they should sell right away. Any strategy that uses fear to motivate people is wrong. It takes self-discipline to resist such strategies because they often work. That doesn't make them right. Blockbusting is using fear to get owners to sell fast and cheap. Synonyms: panic selling. Fair Housing Discrimination Act, the Holden Act of 1977, made redlining illegal. The California law, the Fair Housing Discrimination Act of 1977, or the Holden Act, prohibits financial institutions from discriminating in real estate loan approvals based on property location, neighborhood, or the type of people that might live in the area. The common name for this practice is, quote, redlining, end quote. The history of redlining is that banks would lay out a map of the city and draw lines in red areas around areas they would not lend to because of ethnic makeup of the area, or the social economic status level of the area, or some other illegal basis for denying loans to applicants who live in that area. Redlining violations can be reported to the Secretary for Business and Transportation, who will act on the complaint within 30 days' time. The Holden Act made redlining against the law. Related words: redlining.